Well, good morning, everybody. My discussion today, my name is Adam Ross. I am the Director of Commerce and Retail Media Network Partnerships at SiriusXM Media. We thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different today and kick off with a fun and immersive audio experiment. We knew this was a little bit smaller venue and less people, so we thought it lent itself well to doing this experiment. I was hoping it'd be not quite this few people. That's okay. We're gonna roll with it. If anyone hears me, come join us. This is gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna have a fun with some chocolate and some music. But before I jump into the experiment, I did want to just kick off with a quick overview of who we are. If you're not familiar with SiriusXM Media, we have rebranded a couple of times, and we have evolved, become a true audio entertainment ecosystem. We represent a tremendous amount of different publishers and platforms to help you achieve both your brand and commerce marketing objectives. So if you're not familiar with SiriusXM Media, wanted to showcase kind of all the different inventory that you can tap into for commerce and retail media. And I've broken it down into kind of three different pillars here. So the first is, of course, SiriusXM satellite inventory. That's the platform you're probably familiar with. Maybe in Dash in your car or on the app on your phone. So that's all the great shows, the great sports content, news content, and music stations that you're probably familiar with if you're a subscriber. The other big pillar and a big part of the inventory that we leverage for retail media activation is our streaming music network. So we reach about 100 million users in the US across our streaming music network. That's 66% of streaming inventory in the US. And that's anchored by our core platforms like Pandora and SoundCloud, but many others like Sonos, AudioMac, Adobe, Spanish broadcasting systems. All of those are our different platforms. Streaming music inventory is a big part of what we're tapping into and providing to our retail media network partners like Walmart Connect and many others. And then the third pillar of inventory that we can leverage is podcast. So if we have any podcast fans here, you know how powerful that can be. We as a company are really leaning big into podcasts. The platform is blowing up. Listenership is blowing up. Time spent with podcasts is blowing up. We're making big investments. We signed just this year Caller Daddy and the Unwell Network. We made investments inside SmartList and Jason Bateman and his crew. But we continue to bring on great creators and content creators in the podcast space. So again, satellite inventory, streaming music network inventory, and podcast network inventory. And we will talk about how you can leverage all those different inventory sources through retail media network activation to be even more targeted, and more measurable than really ever before. So wanted to make sure you know when you think and you hear SiriusXM Media, think of us as more than just SiriusXM, but truly as an audio entertainment ecosystem. So with that said, let's jump into this experiment and have a little bit of fun to kick things off. I got to reference my note cards because I have not done this before, but I think it's going to be fun. So if you have headphones, please put them on. I think it will improve the experience for you. So now that you know a little bit more about who we are at SiriusXM Media, we are believers in the power of sound to motivate us, and harnessing that sound is key to effective audio advertising. So that's why we created Studio Resonate, which is our in-house audio-first creative consultancy where we create all audio assets for all of our brands, commerce marketers, and retail media network partners. We create all audio assets as added value. We never want a lack of audio assets to be a barrier to considering audio as a channel for your marketing objectives. So we wanted to give you kind of a firsthand experience of sound's ability to shape our perception of the world around us. And we call it Bittersweet Symphony. So you should have received a bag with chocolates, including 2 different wrappers, both purple and silver in color. So I'm going to ask you, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to take a bite of chocolate and think about how you would describe it. Is it sweet? Maybe it's bitter, or maybe it's dark or creamy. And then I'm going to ask you to take a bite of the other piece of chocolate. We want you to compare any differences in the taste of the chocolate. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the lighter colored piece of chocolate in the silver colored wrapper. I know we got a few other folks joining, so Please put some headphones on, enjoy some chocolate. Let's have fun with this experiment. So starting off with the first bit of chocolate in the silver colored wrapper. Oops, excuse me. Music? Okay, good. So let's take that. I want you to first, let's notice the soundscape that is playing. And I want you to close your eyes. I want you to concentrate on that soundscape. And then I want you to go ahead and take a bite of that chocolate. And while you're doing that, focus on the sound and on the taste. Is the chocolate bitter? Maybe it's sweet. How else might you describe it? I want you to hold those descriptions in your mind. Okay? Now, open your eyes and cleanse your palate. So we're going to do the exact same thing with the second sample of chocolate that we have given you in the purple wrapper. Okay? Everybody ready? All right. So unwrap the chocolate, close your eyes again, listen to the soundscape that is playing. Continue to concentrate as you take a bite of this second piece of chocolate. Again, please focus on the sound and the taste. How does this piece of chocolate taste? Maybe it's bitter. Maybe it is sweet. What differences are you noticing in the flavor of the experience? Okay, you can open your eyes. So hopefully you got some differences in that chocolate, but if some of you might have guessed, there was a bit of perceptual sleight of hand, or sleight of ear in this case. Both pieces of chocolate in this exercise were exactly the same. The differences in flavor, hopefully you experienced that, had nothing to do with what you put in your mouth. It had everything to do with what we just put into your ears. And that's because our brains are wired for sound. Sound impacts our physiology, producing neurochemicals and hormones like cortisol and dopamine and oxytocin. Sound impacts our psychology as well, triggering strong emotions that in turn encode memories that can be retrieved later when we hear those sounds again. Sound shapes our perception of the world around us, and it infuses events with context and with meaning. Which brings us to our bittersweet symphony. So a little bit more science here. There is a field of psychology called psychophysics, which is devoted to the study of physical stimuli and their interaction with sensory systems. Some of you may have heard of synesthesia. It's a condition that exists when the brain cross-wires sensory input, and the result that synesthetes might literally taste words or hear colors. Cross-modal science suggests that while not all of us are synesthetes, experts estimate that about 4% of people worldwide experience synesthesia, but that our brains are constantly taking in information from our senses and combining them in interesting ways to help us make sense of the world around us. And we know from research that this soundscape primes your brain for bitterness. And this soundscape primes your brain for sweetness. So we have other soundscapes that correspond to other flavor profiles too, like salty and spicy and sour. We call them sonic seasonings. And when we combine them with an additional sensory cue, like the wrapper on the chocolates, we can amplify those effects. So these are the kinds of things we're doing every day at SiriusXM Media and at Studio Resonate, from consultation to ad production to dreaming up wild and crazy sonic experiences to help your brands win in commerce. And when we combine the science with sound art to help you make the kind of sound decisions that lead to more creatively effective advertising, and then we layer in data from our retail partners to be more targeted and more measurable than ever before, well, that's when we hear the sweet symphony of multiplying returns on your media spend. Because great audio doesn't start with your ears. It starts with what's between them. So that's the experiment. Thanks for letting us share a bit of this sonic science with you. In this bag, we're going to leave you with some QR codes, which will take you to an online version of the Bittersweet Symphony, a much more robust version than what we just did today. And there's also a QR code, which will take you to our retail media page, where you can download all kinds of great content, narratives, case studies from retail media network partners. So we hope you guys will take advantage of that. But now that we've had some fun with chocolate, let's talk a little bit more about why you should view audio as a core channel for commerce. So I think one of the big things I've taken away from this conference, and a big buzzword we've heard a lot about, is omnichannel. We're really excited about the growth in omnichannel, and we've heard a lot, I think, from a lot of great partners here about social and about CTV, and we want to make sure that audio is also thought of as a core channel for commerce. eMarketer, you've probably seen, is projecting massive growth in offsite in 2025 to the tune of $14 billion. We expect at least 20% of all retail media investment to be going to offsite channels like audio. 56% of marketers are saying they plan to increase their investment in offsite channels like audio. And then even more specific to audio, we know that 62% of commerce marketers that have leveraged audio in their commerce campaigns already see audio as core to the media mix. So we're really excited about the growth that's projected in offsite media, and we think audio is going to play a big role in helping brands to engage new customers, for brands to now activate via retail media and to talk to them in different ways and in different platforms and greet those shoppers where they are, where they're naturally consuming media. So I think it's also important to talk about the ubiquity of audio in people's lives. People are spending over 4 hours a day streaming music and streaming podcasts. So there's just a huge amount of time spent. And there's all these, you think about all these incremental opportunities all along that path to purchase where you can reach shoppers, often in these contextually relevant moments, to drive higher sales velocity for your brands at retail. So, for instance, think about maybe a food or a beverage brand for back to school, trying to reach that parent while they're packing lunches in the morning or while they're making their shopping list. We know 65% of our users are streaming while they're making shopping lists. And these are often moments when screens aren't present. So we're really the only way to get your message in front of these consumers. How about commuting? 58% of our listeners are listening while they are driving to the store. So, imagine an Bev brand reminding shoppers to swing by Walmart, stock up beer for your summer grilling with friends this weekend. We can do that. Even down to the point of purchase, we know 32% of our users are streaming while they walk the aisles of their store. So all the way from awareness to the point of purchase, we're reaching shoppers all along that path to purchase where they're naturally consuming media. And when we reach them in these contextually relevant ways, that's a great recipe for success, and we know that's proven to work. So time spent, really big part of what we bring along with scale. So with that said, I did want to talk about the retail media network partners that we are integrated with today. We work with 8 retail media networks. We are growing rapidly. We better be, because that's my job, and if we don't, I'm going to be in trouble. But we have 8 partners I did want to highlight today. You can leverage data from these partners across all of the inventory we talked about in the beginning of the discussion. So Macy's, Kohl's, CVS, Walgreens, Target's Roundel, Walmart Connect is a huge partner. Kroger is a huge partner. Dollar General Media Network is a huge partner. We have many, many more coming on board. We're actually onboarding some as I speak today. So we're really excited about the opportunity to continue to leverage more retailer data, again, to be more targeted and measurable than ever before. So we have 160 million users across our streaming music and podcast inventory. So scale is a big part of what we bring. Time spent is a big part of what we bring. And again, meeting those shoppers where they are, where they're naturally consuming media, to really continue to drive them down the path to purchase. So I think it's important to talk about why audio via a retail media partner versus just working directly with someone from the SiriusXM Media team. And the real big benefits to retail media activation are, first, targeting. So know that you can get as advanced with first-party audience segments across audio as you can with any other digital tactic like display. So category buyers, lapsed brand buyers, competitive brand buyers, predictive modeling, all those kinds of really advanced first-party audience segments, you can take advantage and leverage across both streaming music and podcasts. So targeting is more efficient. Measurement, especially in podcasts, we're really excited about this. We close the loop on measurement. So we are passing back the identifiers that are necessary for all of our retail partners to provide the same level of in-depth reporting, insights, and analytics that you see across any other digital tactic. So not only did my shopper hear my ad on Pandora or on the Conan O'Brien podcast, but they went in store and bought my product either in store or online. So we can report back on incrementality, return on ad spend, right? AROAS, IROAS. We can report back on metrics like, sales uplift, household penetration uplift, traffic uplift, new brand buyer uplift, which is a benchmark we blow out of the water. We have a case study I'll close with that kind of supports that with some really great data. But all those types of reporting metrics you will see across audio. And then the final piece of this is JBP allocation. So I don't know if we have any brand people out there, but if you're a brand that has an endeavor with a retailer, you can ensure that your investment in audio is going to roll up to that retailer commitment. So these are kind of the three core talking points to why audio via retail media. So I also wanted to play an example for you guys of a brand doing what we call retail media best practice and doing it well. So if you get an opportunity to hit that QR and go to our retail media site, got a lot of great content on there. We have a whole list of retail media best practices along with examples of brands illustrating exactly those best practices to help drive better sales velocity at their retailers. But when you think about streaming audio, the one thing I would love for you to take away from this is think of us as a great platform to do more storytelling. I think people often think about social and other channels when it comes to storytelling, but what we're talking about here is a non-skippable 30-second audio spot that gives you so much time to do things really effectively with a single impression. Things like innovation. I got a brand new product. I mean, I've talked to so many of our clients today that have tons of innovation coming out. And you got to tell that Walmart shopper what this new product is, why it's great, why it's so much better than what they're putting in their cart today, and maybe why they need to go get it at Walmart. Maybe it's on rollback at Walmart. Maybe it's at Kroger and it's part of a mega, or it's part of a buy more, save more event. All those types of things, we can deliver all of that messaging very efficiently with a non-skippable 30-second audio spot. So innovation. How about scale events? I want to talk about 4 or 5 different products and give use cases for each of those products. We can do that effectively with audio. Seasonal events is another best practice. You think about aligning with, music is the background to our lives. It motivates us. We have music curated for all the big seasonal events. We just finished New Year, New You. And what are people doing while they're exercising or walking or running? They're streaming music or podcasts. We can hit them then. We're doing a lot right now with spring cleaning. I don't know about you, but I'm listening to music while I'm cleaning my house. So if you're Kimberly Clark and you want to hit folks while they're cleaning with your spring cleaning message, what a great way to do that, right? So a lot of different best practices out there. This is an example of a brand that not only wanted to talk about some innovation, but again, talk about needing to do more complex messaging or long form messaging. They also wanted to talk about cause marketing and how they're giving back to a community that matters to them. Hard to do that really well with a display ad, right? But with non-skippable 30-second audio spot, it gives you the time to deliver that message effectively. So check out this example, driving to Kroger. I will also just note, when it comes to retail partners that have multiple banners, we will version creative so that if it's called Smith's in one town and it's called Kroger in another city, we're going to make sure we're driving to the correct retailer. But check out this example of a brand doing just that.
Oh yeah, baby. We're doing a really low voice to introduce our Too Good smoothies. Because lower sugar is good, but helping feed someone in need is too good. So far, we've donated over 47 million meals and counting. Too good. Good for you, good for others. Tap now or visit your local baker's store to buy Too Good smoothies today. Contains 80% less sugar than the average 7-ounce cultured dairy drink. For every unit sold, we donate 1 cent to food rescue organizations.
All right. So a lot jammed in there. But again, if you take one thing from this, audio is a great platform for doing more advanced storytelling. So that's streaming music. I do want to touch quickly on podcasts. If you're not a podcast fan, I think it's important to know podcast is blowing up. Not just in the amount of people that are listening, but the time spent listening to podcasts. People are really leaned into, we're going to create audio spots that are curated specifically for the podcast environment, so it feels native to that listening experience. And I think I was just actually posting on LinkedIn today, I've seen a lot about social and the ability to do more influencer marketing. Don't discount how powerful podcast is for influencing the culture and the generation. And a lot of people look to their favorite podcasters for influence. And so there's a great opportunity there to do a lot more social amplification. So when you think about influence and you think about TikToks and all the great other offsite partners we've heard talk today, podcasts should definitely be a piece of that recipe as well. 135 million people are listening to podcasts every month in this country. 313% growth over the last 10 years. We continue to sign and invest in major names in the podcast space. And one of the great things is, it's going to expand your reach. We know that you can grow your reach by 14% by adding podcasts to your media plan. The duplication between podcast and streaming music and audio is extremely low. So it's a great way to expand reach and incrementality. It's attention grabbing, and we can be more measurable than ever before. When podcast is still kind of the Wild West, it's pretty new. But when it first came out, we were pretty limited in what you could do from a targeting perspective and from a measurement perspective. Now, thanks to our retail media partners, we can close the loop on measurement and say, not only did they hear your podcast ad, they went into your store and purchased your product, and here's the return on ad spend you generated because of your podcasts. So, and also it's trend setting. I think there's a great opportunity for social amplification like we just talked about. So podcasts have really ascended from niche to mainstream. And now, because of retail media network partnerships, again, we've just empowered ourselves to be even stronger when it comes to podcast media. Oh, looks like I'm getting the next screen. So I'm going to wrap up. I did want to finish with a case study. I'll briefly say this is a great case study we're proud of. We just released it this year. We worked with Kroger to do this. We didn't select just one campaign that kicked ass. We said, let's look at 43 different campaigns. You guys select them at random. And then let's benchmark how did audio perform across core KPIs so we could get a good understanding of, again, how is audio driving incrementality and better ROAS for our clients. And so as you can see here, we measured across 43 campaigns across food, bev, pet, and HBC. We drove on average a 10-to-1 return on ad spend. We drove 25% in sales uplift and household penetration uplift. We drove strong visit uplift. And one place that we can really perform is in driving new trial households. So Kroger calls it new household trial. I think Walmart calls it new brand buyer uplift, but 46%, and that is on average. I've seen even higher ones. So if for your brands, if the goal is reaching new brand buyers, reaching new households that maybe you're not reaching with traditional on-site media or even off-site tactics, if that's a KPI you guys are looking to achieve, we hope you'll consider audio as a channel. I think I still have a few more minutes here, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap with that. That's a great case study. We have lots more case studies on our retail media page on SiriusXM. So please go check it out and snag me if you have any questions. We'd love to work with you. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.